Usually when I hear people discuss pharmaceutical products in any type of capacity, I either zone out or hear the Charlie Brown voices, you know, the ones like wah, wah, wah. But recently, I have seen a trend in the weight loss community centered around the pharmaceutical product Ozempic and products like it. I mean, I kept hearing people discuss taking Ozempic and other weight loss products like that, and the weight literally falling right off. I also heard of people attending Ozempic parties where groups of individuals and close friends would all gather around and inject each other with Ozempic. Hearing the words Ozempic party, I imagined a Great Gatsby style party where everyone was dressed in 20s style flapper dresses as the music played a swinging upbeat tune while partygoers consumed copious amounts of champagne. Ozempic truly sounded like a miracle drug that people had found with the power to zap away fat from a person's body. And I even saw the before and afters, and it's really hard to discredit the visual evidence I was being shown. So I wondered, is Ozempic really the cure-all weight loss drug that we've all been craving for these years, or is it just too good to be true? Additionally, I wondered if we were all too quick to run to these drugs instead of trying to lose weight the old-fashioned way. So I wanted to investigate and look more into the wonderful world of weight loss drugs, including Ozempic. So, what really is Ozempic and what is its original purpose? Well, drugs like Ozempic, Wegovy, and others are known as semaglutides. Don't know if I'm saying that right. Semaglutides? Anyway, I'll put it up on screen. And are once weekly injections that were originally intended to be used by people with type 2 diabetes. These drugs are classified as GLP-1s, RAs, and are proven to improve AL1C, lower cholesterol and blood sugar in patients with type 2 diabetes. In turn, these drugs were shown to induce weight loss for patients and was approved by the FDA in 2014 for chronic weight loss management. But you may be asking, how exactly do these drugs work? Now, bear with me because I am not a chemist or a biologist, but I will give my best effort based on the research that I found to explain kind of what goes on with these drugs. So, apparently these GLP-1s or these semaglutides or anything like Wegovy, Ozempic, these drugs work to imitate the naturally occurring hormones in your body, the GLPs. That's why they're named that. But when they bind to these receptors in your body, they send signals to your pancreas that cause it to produce more insulin. This insulin then works to reduce your blood sugar and reduce appetite, thus helping the patient lose weight. Additionally, the GLP-1s like Ozempic and Wegovy target the liver to prevent it from releasing sugar into the bloodstream and also target the stomach to keep it from digesting food and keep the food digesting in the stomach longer, which makes your hunger cues reduced. But overall, this is a very basic breakdown of what Ozempic and Wegovy do inside your body. And by all accounts, this really works. Patients using GLP-1s reported significant weight loss since using the drug, with some patients losing up to 14 pounds on Ozempic. Although there are some people reaching like 20, 30 pounds, it's really just dependent. However, even on the website today, Ozempic claims they are not a weight loss drug and that they are mainly focused on helping people with type 2 diabetes and help them with their management, and the weight loss is just an unattended side effect. So what happened? How did we go from these GLP-1s like Ozempic being prescribed solely for type 2 diabetes use to being the drug of choice for the elite to lose weight? As mentioned, GLP-1s like Ozempic were originally intended for diabetes and type 2 diabetes management, but were later approved by the FDA in 2014 for weight loss management, specifically chronic weight loss management, which is important to note. Well, since then, there's been an uptick in patients trying to get their hands on these drugs for its supposed weight loss purposes and benefits. But why in the last year or so has there been a sudden explosion in interest? Well, in 2021, the FDA approved the GLP-1 Wegovy for consumer usage. Wegovy was different from Ozempic because it was specifically marketed for weight loss, while Ozempic was marketed first as a type 2 diabetes management drug and then eventually got approved for chronic weight loss management. Although people have been using these GLP-1s like Ozempic for weight loss in the past, the FDA approval of Wegovy really paved the way for GLP-1s to be accepted on the open market and taken more recreationally than ever before. However, it should be noted that even though Wegovy was approved federally, it still needed a prescription prescription and is not sold over the counter. This means there still exists a barrier to entry that makes Wegovy and other GLP-1s and semaglutides inaccessible to all. This FDA approval, mixed with people's desire to shed some weight, caused a boom in GLP-1 sales like Wegovy and Ozempic. So much so that in the fall of 2022, Wegovy and Ozempic were largely unavailable. This inaccessibility and unavailability of Ozempic and Wegovy was especially concerning because those drugs weren't just used for weight loss. They were also used for type 2 diabetes management, like we mentioned. So this was especially concerning for people who had used those drugs for their chronic weight loss management, but also for type 2 diabetes management. This shortage of GLP-1s like Wegovy and Ozempic led me to think and question some of the things about these weight loss miracle drugs. Specifically, what happens when you are unable to or stop using these drugs that you're using for management of chronic diseases? This exact question about what happens if you stop using these weight loss drugs prompted me to look into this topic in the first place. Specifically, I saw TikTok by the popular creator Remy Bader, where she discusses on a podcast what happened when she decided to stop using the GLP-1 she had been prescribed.
Ozempic.
So it doesn't work when you get off of it.
I gained double the weight back after.
Unfortunately, Remy describes how she gained double the weight back, and sadly, this is not uncommon. As mentioned, GLP-1s and semaglutides are used for chronic disease management, which means that they should be taken or used as a chronic disease medication should be used. This means that they should be used indefinitely and also consistently. Consistency is very difficult, especially when the drug that's necessary to long-term success are largely unavailable. Additionally, these drugs are not effective without changes to diet and exercise, which stands to reason. However, the messaging around these pharmaceuticals makes them seem like wonder drugs that will help you permanently lose weight fast without needing to diet or change anything in your exercise routine, which is just not accurate. There are numerous examples of people discussing how, due to extenuating circumstances, they were unable to continue using Ozempic and ultimately gained the weight back. And these anecdotal pieces of evidence are backed up by scientific studies. According to a Step 4 clinical trial study conducted by Dr. Rubino and Associates, people that went off Ozempic and kept up lifestyle changes like diet and exercise gained back 2/3 of the weight that they had lost while on Ozempic. These findings have further been backed up by other studies that showed that people who had been on Ozempic and then abruptly stopped actually gained a portion of that weight back. And that goes along with all the anecdotal evidence that I've seen that people have mentioned that they felt like they gained the weight back after they had stopped Ozempic for reasons outside of their control. And especially with these shortages, people were unable to access Wegovy and Ozempic and gained the weight back. But that being said, some other people who have used Ozempic and then stopped report not having these issues, not gaining any of the weight back and not having any sorts of problems after stopping Ozempic. So what is really happening? As I mentioned, Ozempic is just one piece of chronic weight loss and type 2 diabetes management. I know I harp on this all the time on my channel, but long-term weight loss success comes down to changes in diet and exercise. Ozempic limits people's hunger cues and curbs people's appetites. So once you're off of Ozempic because of reasons that sometimes are outside of your control, it stands to reason that you might actually see a return of those hunger cues, and you may start eating more and digesting more and just kind of like not taking care of your diet or not counting your calories. In addition to potentially not changing your exercise that much, your diet returning back to your pre-Ozempic levels may contribute to why some people after stopping Ozempic actually see an increase in the amount of weight that they gain. It seems that people who have the most success after stopping usage of Ozempic, Wegovy, and other GLP-1s and semaglutides are the people that continued their lifestyle changes after the stoppage. So although Ozempic can be a helpful catalyst in jumpstarting your weight loss journey, it is not a cure-all drug. Especially with supply shortages, it seems that lifestyle changes are just as important, if not more important, than the weight loss drugs. But this brings me to my last point I'd like to discuss in terms of these these weight loss drugs. Are we as a society too eager to turn to drugs to fix our problems? Personally, I don't see a problem with most pharmaceutical products and believe that they are vital to keeping people happy and healthy. And used appropriately, pharma drugs are important parts to many people's lives. However, I think we all know the dangers of big pharma and the insidious nature of these pharmaceutical companies. There are constantly countless examples of big pharma ruining people's lives and destroying livelihoods all for the sake of profit. So although I don't see anything inherently wrong with using a weight loss drug to help you with your chronic weight loss management or your type 2 diabetes management, I think that it's wise to be a little wary of these pharmaceutical companies. In addition, something I also want to mention is not only to be wary of these pharmaceutical products to an extent, just do your research, but also be wary of the messaging that you're hearing from celebrities or people who are taking Ozempic. Like I mentioned, I feel like some of the drug companies market them fairly and say this is not a weight loss drug, the weight loss is an unintended side effect, but I feel like the messaging when it comes to other people is like, oh, I started taking Ozempic and all this weight fell off. Not really mentioning the diet and exercise changes. I'm sure there are people out there who mention what they did to supplement the Ozempic or the Wegovy and stuff like that. I feel like especially when it comes to celebrities and influencers who are talking about these weight loss drugs, they don't really mention the lifestyle changes. They just talk about how much of a miracle drug these things are. And I feel like it's kind of misleading and misrepresenting what the drug is actually used for. So I would just say be wary of the messaging. I feel like if you do your research into the drug, what it actually does, and then also what you should be doing to supplement this drug, because you're not just going to take this drug and everything's going to be hunky-dory. You have to actually put in the work individually to make sure that this weight loss is long-term and successful and sustainable. So that's what I would say, is just be wary of all the messaging surrounding it, because right now it seems like a lot of people are like, so I feel like a lot of people are either praising this drug and exalting it as this miracle, or kind of saying it's a bad thing because people go off of it and then they gain this weight back. And I feel like the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And I feel like that leads me to my conclusion. So I would conclude at the end of all of this research that the truth behind these weight loss drugs lies in the middle. Are they inherently evil? No. They were designed for good purposes in mind, especially to help with people who have type 2 diabetes, and by all accounts, they're extremely successful. Do I think that they are a miracle drug and should be used by anybody trying to lose any amount of weight? Absolutely not. It is not a cheat code for losing weight, especially because you have to do all of the hard work to make it sustainable. You have to do the lifestyle changes. I feel like a lot of people think, oh, I'm just gonna inject it once and then it's gonna like cure me and like I'm gonna lose all this weight. And that's just not the truth. It should be used consistently because it's used for chronic disease management. And you wouldn't just stop your heart medication because you felt like your heart was like beating better or like you felt better and stuff like that. I know some people do that, but that's not the intended use for Ozempic and these weight loss drugs. They're supposed to be used chronically and indefinitely. So in combination with these lifestyle changes, diet, exercise changes, and using it as a true chronic disease management tool, I feel like it's fine. Especially as long as you talk to your doctor and do your own research, I would say that this is something that if you really want to look into, just be careful about and be very cognizant of what it means to go on to these weight loss drugs. But yeah, that's what I found doing my research. I hate to be wishy-washy and not like right in the middle, but life is full of gray zones, and I feel like this is one of them. It is not inherently evil, like I said. It's not a miracle drug. It is somewhere in the middle, and the truth lies there. So I would say do your own research, do your own research, do your own research. But also make sure that you're consulting your doctor at every turn. Don't just like inject yourself with things you don't know what they do. I mean, that's just a given, but that's just my advice. But that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.